A win is a win, but not all wins are alike. Sooners surviving a somewhat unexpected test from Houston, saved by a stifling defense. Can an offense that was stuck in neutral last week find its footing with SEC play approaching rapidly? From inside Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium in Norman, it's Sooner Game Day presented by Taco Mayo. Big appetite, bigger savings. Download and save today. Final game in a three-game series between Oklahoma and the Tulane Green Wave, who nearly stunned the Sooners in Norman 3 seasons ago. Oklahoma 2-0, the Green Wave 1-1 after a loss in New Orleans to Kansas State last Saturday. Kickoff 2:30 Saturday, ESPN. Dave Pasch, former Sooner Dusty Dvoracek, and Taylor McGregor will have the call for you on that one. Sooners are 2-0, but a rough offensive outing versus Houston. We welcome you inside. I'm your host, Chad McKee, alongside my cohorts, the Butkus and Bednarik Award-winning national championship linebacker at Oklahoma, Teddy Lehman. And in between us is the Werfel Trophy winner, academic All-American, and All-American of the Year, the All-American center, Gabe Eichert, with us. Fellas, it was close. 2-point game headed down the home stretch. Teddy, how nervous were you? I'll admit I wasn't listening to the radio. I'd had to turn it off. You got to kind of shift the luck a little bit. So had the TV on, watching that
what
toward
do you
the
mean
end.
Shift the luck?
Well, you've got to do. You've got to sit in a different chair. If you got to change up the format, you got to try. If you got to change your clothing, whatever you must do to bring it home.
That's right.
But how nervous were you getting down the home stretch, Ted?
Honestly, not very nervous. I knew everyone was going to be upset, but I didn't think that they were going to go down the field and score on our defense. I just didn't.
There you go.
Now, we had the big bust, and gave up that big play, and they got in the end zone. But other than that, I didn't think that they were going to go down the field and score on us. But I can't say that I wasn't nervous at all. Like throughout the game, I was just. I felt for the guys knowing that they weren't playing the way that they wanted to.
Gabe, don't get Willie Fritz teams on the schedule anymore, apparently,
I
right? He nearly pulled it off.
We
Yes,
told
he
you.
can.
We told you when we previewed the game. The guy, he's an absolute football coach, and that's one thing you got to point out is credit to Houston.
They played good.
Heck of a game plan. I thought they executed the game plan on both sides of the football at a high level, but I never thought we were going to lose the football game. I had full faith in the defense to get the stops there in the fourth quarter when they needed to get the stops, but I would have liked to have been more comfortable there in the fourth quarter. That would have been nice. There's just no doubt Oklahoma did not play their best football in that game on either side of the ball, but especially offensively. I mean, anyone with eyes can see that.
Tennessee coming to town for the SEC opener in a week, so you got to start to fix things. 249 yards of total offense, 1 for 12 on third down, no offensive points in the second half. What most immediately needs to get fixed on that side of the ball, Gabe, if possible?
It'd be nice if the offensive line could get healthy, but that's not the reality of the situation. You've got who you've got up front. The answer for me is the running game. You have to get the running game going if you want to be an effective offense, and I'm hoping we see them expand the run game a little more. They've pretty much stuck with a few variations of the inside zone play, and it just has not generated a lot of space and has not generated a lot of production. So I'd like to see us get to more of the counter concepts that Bill Beanbo has gone to in the past and had so much success with. I know Jackson Arnold, all the attention is on him. That's what comes with being the quarterback at Oklahoma, but it would help him out and the entire offense out if this run game could get going.
Yeah, I agree. To me, run game, but just overall execution. We've had some negative yardage plays. Like we're not in a position right now to get behind the chains, to get off schedule. We need to really focus on getting to third and manageable, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. Through these first 2 games, we're terrible on third down. Everyone knows that. And I think that one of the biggest reasons is because it's like 3rd and 8 plus almost every single time. And it doesn't matter. Like there's no offense that consistently converts those at a high rate. So we need to be better on early downs. That ties into the run situation. We also need playmakers to help out our young quarterback.
Sure.
We've had way too many drops, and drops by guys that we expect to be stars.
Defensively, though, it's been really good through 2 games. Now 8 turnovers forced, and without what they did in the second half, who knows how this game might have turned out. How impressed have you been by what the defense has done, Ted?
They've been really solid. You see big Dominic Williams there getting a sack. The defensive line, I think, has been excellent through the first 2 games. Jaden Jackson's been great. Tons of chaos. No one's able to run the football on us. And, it's the exact opposite of what's been going on offensively. We're crushing the run, putting teams in 3rd and long and able to win and make them predictable. You see here, we're athletic. We're flying to the football. We're playing a bunch of guys. It's been really good. We've just had the one, there's been mistakes, don't get me wrong, but the one major mental bust that gave them the free touchdown. Outside of that, the first 2 games have been incredibly solid.
They've been really, really good, just like we expected them to be. I've been very pleased with how the defensive line has played collectively. Stutzman is, he's fantastic.
On a different level right now.
Kendall Dolby is playing at a very high level at the cheetah position, other than the one bust in the secondary, which Brent Venables blamed on the coaching staff. He said, hey, we got to get the call in faster. Mm-hmm. So I think they've been everything we could have wanted so far through these first 2 games, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah. Now for this Tulane team, they are 1-1. They led early in the 4th quarter against Kansas State 27-20 in New Orleans last week. Wildcats made that comeback. New head coach John Summerall replacing Willie Fritz, who made an appearance in Norman just this past weekend, but nearly 500 yards per game. Darian Mensah, the quarterback, we'll talk about him a little bit more in a bit. But Gabe, is this the biggest test, at least on paper, and what you see in the film room that Oklahoma has faced so far?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I am a massive fan of what they do offensively. I really like their scheme, good variety in the run game, and then a lot of play action concepts that builds off all of the run concepts that they get to. Darian Mensah is a dude at the quarterback position, and they've got speed at the wide receiver spot. They've got speed at tight end, and they've got a guy, Mekhi Hughes, that I really like at the running back position. Oklahoma's defense is going to be stressed in ways that they have not been stressed this season, and I'm interested to see how they hold up.
Defensive side of the ball, Ted, not a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. They have only 2 sacks in 2 games. What do you think of what you see from Tulane defensively?
Well, I think there's some avenues for our offense to have some success. Kansas State was able to gash them on some big runs, and I think we should be able to do the same on some stuff and turn it into play action off of some of those looks and be able to press them down the field. We need our receivers to go out and have a big game. I think the strength of Tulane's defense is right up the middle, the front 7. They're physical on the defensive line. They're really physical at backer. But I think we can out-athlete them in space. But, we are still going to have to establish that run game to help our young quarterback out. And to me, that's going to be the key. And there's some stuff there, some angles there. Gabe has been talking about it in the run game with their front, that 3-man front. We should be able to hit some of our gap scheme stuff.
In this situation, Oklahoma has been very good, really through the course of time, but over the last 20 years, the Sooners have won 47 consecutive games against unranked non-conference opponents. That's 20 years of wins in this situation that they will have coming up on Saturday. We're talking Sooner offense coming up next. We'll call it a work in progress for now. New starting quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new guys on the offensive line, and there have been some growing pains. So how do you get past the pains and into some gains? The fellas weigh in next on Sooner Game Day, presented by Taco Mayo. Sooners and Green Wave coming up on Saturday afternoon at Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium. Mentioned Oklahoma's 47 consecutive wins against unranked non-conference foes. And on the other side of that, look at Tulane. 3rd longest road winning streak in the country. You want to know the programs who have longer winning streaks? You may have heard of them. Michigan and Georgia. The only 2 programs that have won more road games consecutively than Tulane. Now they're playing in the American Athletic Conference, not the
I
SEC.
don't care.
or the
That's
Big Ten.
impressive.
Really impressive.
Facts
That's really
are
impressive.
facts, and that was mainly done under Willie Fritz. In fact, it all was done under Willie Fritz. This is John Summerall's first road trip as the new head coach of the Green Wave. So we put Jackson Arnold in the spotlight, and being the quarterback at Oklahoma is a unique spot. All the pressures that come with it, but you almost have to make this area, the Switzer Center, which is just to the south of us, it's got to be a bubble. It's a protective area, and inside those walls is all that matters. Jackson Arnold, he's in the throes of adversity right now, really for the first time in his career. Teddy, how does he need to, and how do you expect him to handle all that's transpired for him this week?
Well, he's got to handle it. You know, it's big boy football. You got to step up and make plays. You know, this has not been a good environment for a young quarterback to get experience. Whenever you're incredibly banged up on the offensive line, you've lost 3 of your best wide receivers, haven't been playing, 2 to big-time injuries that aren't going to be back, at least for a while. And then Anderson, you're waiting on him to show up. So you haven't had all of your weapons available. They've been moving offensive line pieces around. So that part has not been good. He's had guys drop balls. So the players around him need to play better. But for him, you know, he needs to be quicker. I know it's difficult, but he needs to trust the offensive line. He's pulling out of there a little bit too quick instead of having his eyes downfield and finding something. You know, he's just got to continue to press and make plays. And, you know, here's the thing. And maybe this isn't a common thought with people, but I think he needs to take more risks. I love the way our defense is playing. I love the way, for the most part, our special teams have played. I think he's playing a little bit too tight, which it's understandable, right? He's only got 3 starts under his belt, and it's been kind of chaotic around him. But I'd like to see him take some more chances, push the ball down the field, trust his talent. He's one of the best athletes on the field. He's an accurate passer. Just let it rip.
Teddy mentioned Jaden Gibson, Jaleel Farouk. You don't have those talented wide receivers. Nick Anderson, we're going to talk more about him here in just a moment. From your perspective, Gabe, what do you see? Add to what Ted is talking about, because typically when you struggle, there's a little bit to go around in all spots on the field, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. I know that Jackson Arnold is getting the majority of the blame because that's what comes with playing the quarterback position, but everyone around him's got to be better. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to what we talked about with the running game. An efficient running game is a young quarterback's best friend.
That's it.
It changes how defenses have to play you. Mm-hmm. If they commit more to the box, things become easier in the passing game. Now, one thing I will say, Jackson Arnold, when the box dictates to hand it off in the RPO game, just hand it off. You have to trust your teammates to do their job. You do your job, and you got to trust them to do theirs. And I continue to believe that if the running game can get going, that will be the most important thing to Jackson Arnold playing at a high level. The pass protection in the Houston game was solid. It wasn't perfect, but it was solid. And when he has those opportunities to push it down the field, you got to connect on those.
So what can you change? We're talking offensive. You can't change personnel, can't transfer portal. You don't really have guys available. Now, they are getting a little bit healthier, hopefully, on the offensive line, but can you change anything schematically, blocking schemes, anything like that you might try, Gabe?
Yeah, I think that Teddy alluded to getting to more of the gap scheme runs that we've seen you have so much success with in the past. I think that can be advantageous for an offensive line that clearly has struggled with the inside zone concept and producing movement through these first 2 games, but I like the different personnel groupings. If they're going to continue to be banged up at wide receiver, I would like to see even more of the 12 personnel with Bauer Sharp and Jake Roberts on the field, because those guys are experienced football players. I know that maybe Bauer Sharp's not experienced at this level, but those guys have played a lot more football than some of these young wide receivers have.
Good point, yeah.
So we'll see what it looks like, but I'm optimistic that Seth Luttrell will continue to mix up these personnel groupings, and that makes it more challenging on the defense.
Speaking of those tight ends, how encouraged have you been by their involvement? They've caught a touchdown pass apiece. That equals the total touchdowns caught by Sooner tight ends all of a year ago. How encouraged have you been by that?
Yeah, I really like some of the things they've done. I continue to believe the 12 personnel stuff is going to be a big part of this offense moving forward. Jake Roberts had arguably the 2 biggest plays of the game.
Yeah.
Last week with the touchdown catch and then that catch right there.
Man, if that ball hits the ground in the moment they're trying to run clock at the end of the game, that was crucial.
That was.
I love how these guys are competing, and I think Jake Roberts, he actually won on some routes in the middle of the field, and Jackson Arnold just didn't put the ball on him. I think that Jackson will see that on tape and will go to Jake Roberts in more of those situations, trusting him that he's going to win at the top of his routes. As far as their blocking, love the effort. The execution's got to be better, especially from Bauer Sharp. He needs to learn the difference between blocking and just trying to kill people.
Right.
And right now, he's doing a lot of swinging and missing.
There's a difference?
There's a difference.
Okay.
He's trying to hit people. He needs to block people. And I think that Joe John Finley will have that conversation with him. And I think he can be much better, especially out on the perimeter when they're throwing some of the quick RPO stuff on the outside.
Note to self, do not hit people, just block people.
That's right.
I learn every week.
Sometimes you have to capture, not kill.
Oh, I like that idea.
How about that?
Teddy, not that one player coming back is going to fix any woes and all woes that the offense might have right now, but no Nick Anderson yet. This guy was a freshman All-American a season ago. He caught 10 touchdown passes as a freshman. Now, the offense was a little bit different. Certainly the quarterback was different, as was the offensive line. But here's a look at the wide receiver injuries. You get Jaleel Farouk back, hopefully, at some point. Andrell Anthony trying to work him back from his injury. But Nick Anderson could make a big difference if and when he's ready.
Yeah, and when you look at that, that's your top 4 receivers from a year ago that are all missing right now. If you don't think that is a massive factor in how the offense and how Jackson Arnold will play, I don't know what to tell you.
It's your top 4 returning guys from last. Now, Drake Stoops, sorry, he's out of eligibility, amongst guys that you had last year, too.
Right, but yeah, Nick Anderson, he doesn't fix everything, but I think that helps the quarterbacks. Confidence when you got a 6'4" wide receiver with his capabilities out there on the outside. We need him back.
Yeah.
I don't know what the injury is. I don't know what his status is going to be for this weekend, but we need him back. And I'd prefer it sooner rather than later. And, he can bail you out on some stuff. He's a guy where, okay, this isn't the coverage we want, but I can throw it in a spot and trust him to go up and make a play.
By the way, good interview with Nick and his brother Rodney on the first hour of you guys' new extra hour on the pregame show on radio, fellas.
Some really cool interviews with some of the players in that first hour.
Absolutely.
They sound great.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Then you guys come along for the call. Sooner defense, very good, as expected through the first 2 games of the season, causing more turnovers. Now 8 turnovers forced, including, a game-sealing safety. What we expected, we've gotten so far. Only 1 touchdown allowed through 2 games. Will it continue? Will they ride the wave against the green wave? The fellas weigh in next on Sooner Game Day, presented by Taco Mayo.
On the goal line, Donovan Smith takes the shotgun snap, hands to Snead, men at the goal line, dropped to the end zone. It is a safety! It's a safety! Grayson Halton! Wow!
Oh, I'm going to be teaching play-by-play class this fall at the Gaylord College of Journalism. That's the way you do it, right there.
That's the way you do it.
That is the voice of the Sooners on the radio call with you guys. Biggest play of the game, only up and trying to hold on and preserve the win. Grayson Halton, the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week, he has ascended quickly, 3.5 tackles for loss. Gabe, beginning of the year, we sat here, kind of the preview show. We thought David Stone, P.J. Adebawore, who will take that leap? I don't know that Grayson Halton was the first guy we talked about. What's allowed for this quick ascension on his part?
Well, we knew he was going to be a rotational piece this season. The question was, would he make the jump and be a difference maker for this football team? And so far, he has been. And he's developed mentally, physically. I mean, Coach Venables has talked a lot about how he has matured and is taking things more seriously. He's gotten his weight up to where he can hold up out there in the interior of the defensive line. And the guy's just got twitch. He's a playmaker. He's just got he's got some natural ability that some of the other guys in that defensive line room just don't have. And he's done a really nice job early in the season of getting on edges of offensive line. The safety was that's a great play, but he also didn't get blocked on that play. The guard went the wrong way. I'm sorry, I have to point it out, but he has been a difference maker for this football team, Ted.
No, he's been excellent, and I think he's a nice changeup to some of the other guys on the interior. You mentioned the twitch. He's a guy that flies up the field, plays a good pad level. He can run. He's a sideline to sideline guy, and I love that he's had a good start to the season because I think he's a momentum guy. Like once you get the taste and you start making plays, you start craving it a little bit. You focus and practice a little bit more. You start to find ways where you can penetrate and make something happen in the backfield. So I think he's going to continue. I mean, we're obviously the competition's going to get more and more difficult, but he's got something that you really can't teach. It's that get off.
How about Danny defense? And Danny Stutzman, the start, he's off to 10 tackles in the first half, 15 for the game, fourth most that he's had in his career. Teddy, give us an idea that the chess game and the ways they're utilizing the super talented guy on defense.
Oh, they're using him all over the place. He's playing both inside spots, the Mike and the Will, and they're bringing him on blitzes. He's done so well. And what I love is, he plays fast, but you can tell that he's playing with purpose and he knows where he's supposed to be. There's a difference. He's under control. He's getting guys lined up. You can see how square to the line of scrimmage he always is. That's difficult. When you don't know where you're supposed to be and you're late and you're guessing, you're never square to the line of scrimmage because you have to turn and run to get places. You see how square he always is. He's seeing the whole field. He's playing exceptional football right now. This is what you want. This is the difference between experienced players and inexperienced players. Like Stutzman has always been a good player. He's always had the size. He's always had the athleticism, but the knowledge of the game, the experience, you have to go out there and fail before you really understand what's happening out there. And you can tell that he's playing the chess game. As you said, he's ahead of it. He knows what's coming. He's putting himself and others in great position to make plays. You couldn't ask for better play through 2 games.
How long did it take you to feel like you had fully grasped what is asked of you in this Venables defense?
Third year.
About the same time, yeah.
Yeah, my freshman year, no clue at all what was happening. I was just, trying to line up properly. Second year was my first year starting, and by the end of that year, some things started to click. But, luckily I had a 2-time All-American and a Butkus Award winner to throw me around out there to get me in the right spot. And then after that, it really started to come together.
Rocky Kalmus passing it down to Ted back in his playing
days.
Which
I've told a lot of people, that is a benefit that I had that Stutzman did not have. And that totally changes things. Whenever there's someone there and you say, well, if I want to accomplish this, this, and this, that's what I follow and that's what I do.
Perfect. Gabe, Robert Spears Jennings, their competition at spots on the field, defensive line, secondary. You don't know from game to game how much playing time you're going to get, but he appears to be making the most of his. Gets his first career interception the other day. I know there was the bust on defense, but as you said, Brent Venables took ownership of that with the coaching staff. But how about RSJ so far?
He's been good. I mean, he brings a level of physicality to the safety position that I am a big fan of. And the interception, we talked to RSJ after the game, and he said, that's not a play I'm making a year ago. And I think it speaks to what Teddy was saying about Stutzman. All these guys that have been here a couple years now since Venables took over, they're all starting to get very comfortable in the defensive scheme. And, Zach Alley is doing some things slightly differently, but it's the same system. And these guys are starting to see things clearly and know exactly what they're supposed to do with whatever the offense is throwing at them. And I loved seeing RSJ be able to overcome the adversity of the bust and then go and make a huge play in the football game. He's only going to get better. Right, if he's going to be out there consistently, which it looks like that's the way it's going to be with Peyton Bowen looking a little banged up against Houston, that experience, if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be a really, really good player for this defense.
Defense has been very good. Nick Saban calls it when you get patted on the back too much, rat poison. He's doing a great job on College Game Day these days, by the way. But if you're nitpicking things on the defensive side of the ball, Ted, what might you call out?
Well, tackling, and it's improved over years past. There's no doubt about it, but it can always get better.
Sure.
And I like a lot about what we've done. I mean, one of the things about playing better defense is the plays start to look less impressive Because like we saw Stutzman, he's square, he's in position. Well, it doesn't look like that hard of a play, does it? But whenever you're out of position, you're lunging and diving, and it looks impressive when you bring someone down. So I've liked that. In the open field, there's been some stuff. Luckily, we've had some guys miss, and the guys cleaning it up are 2-3 yards behind, and we've even got some turnovers out of those. So that's been nice. And we did have the big bust. And whether it's the coaching staff or it's the secondary or whoever it was, it happened. It gave away a free touchdown. You've got to clean that up. And then the last spot that I would say is the intermediate zone coverage in the kind of the middle of the field area, the 8 to 15 yard range. Some of it's been on the perimeter. Some of it has been, the crossers on the interior of the field. We can clean that up and be a little bit sharper.
Gabe, how about you?
I just think getting more of a pass rush is something this team is going to need as the competition ramps up. And with what Houston did offensively, their game plan, it was going to be very, very difficult to get to Donovan Smith. Every team's not going to do it that way, and we still really haven't seen a guy emerge as an elite pass rusher. Our Mason Thomas has shown some flashes. Grayson Halton has shown some flashes in the interior. But I'm hoping that we can see this defense generate a more consistent pass rush when guys have their one-on-one opportunities.
I think this is the week Ethan Downs shows up. Just got a feeling about him. Haven't called his name a whole lot this year. I think this is that week. Special teams has been impactful. You look at that safety. That was created by a great punt by Luke Elzinga. He downed 2 inside the 5-yard line the other day. Gabe, last week, we got a
I told us not to talk about the kicker.
Well, look,
I told you.
We got a semi-compliment from Teddy on a kicker last week. Are we going to get a pat on the backside for a punter this week, perhaps?
No?
Don't do it.
Fair enough.
Just execute.
Just don't talk about it.
Saying.
Just do your job.
Let it be.
Like I said
Let
last
it
week,
be.
you're only as good as your last kick.
Very true.
That's how it goes in special teams.
Well, his last kick was pretty good the other day.
Yep.
We'll see what happens against Tulane coming up. And speaking of the Green Wave, they will be coming to town with a 1-1 record and a new head coach. We're going to take a little deeper dive, a scouting report on the Green Wave when we come back on Sooner Game Day, presented by Taco Mayo. Sooners in Green Wave, 2:30 on ESPN right here in Norman on Saturday. We'll take a little deeper dive into the Green Wave. No life jacket needed here. 2017, both Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray played in the same game against Tulane, so that was interesting to watch. 2021, Willie Fritz brought Tulane here and nearly pulled off a win. That game was moved from New Orleans, remember, earlier in the week because of Hurricane Ida, so no such shenanigans this week. Just straightforward, but with a new head coach. John Summerall takes over as the head coach, so we take the scoop presented by Brahms Ice Cream and Dairy Stores. Farm fresh for over 50 years. Gabe, what do we really know about the Green Wave? Start on the offensive side of the ball. Give us the scoop.
Speed. Speed. Now, first of all, John Summerall is a heck of a football coach. Tulane maybe gets him for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
He's getting a big job very,
He was
very
at
soon.
Troy for 2 years, then gets Tulane.
He's a big-time football coach. He's not going to be there long. I'm sorry, Tulane fans. It's just the truth.
At least they're in a position now where it could be the place to go.
And the best thing, I think the most complimentary thing you can tell a football coach is when I turn on the tape, your team plays hard.
Yep. Fast.
They play hard. They play with speed. And that's what stands out about the offense is they've got a really good scheme and they've got speed all over the field. Even their offensive line, like they fly off the football in the run game, and that's what stands out. And then they got a playmaker at quarterback. He can do it with his arm. He can do it with his legs. He's willing to take some risks. He'll make some mistakes. He made a huge mistake in the fourth quarter against Kansas State, which resulted in a scoop and score for the Wildcats, which really changed the game. But Mensah he's not just a guy out there. He is a dude. He can make all the throws. He can hurt you with his legs. That's what really stands out about their team.
Those skill position guys.
I mean, look at that throw.
Beautiful. Fleming right there. They've got, Coach Venables said on Monday, now maybe you think this is coach speak or not. He says this is as good or better than any skill position group that they're going to face this season.
Wow.
And whenever you look at the tight end there, Bauman, he's done a really good job. He can run. He's good on their play action stuff. Mario Williams and Fleming, both excellent, speedy receivers. And then they're back. You know, he was a nearly a 1,400-yard rusher a season ago. And with their scheme, their outside zone scheme, they'll hit some gap stuff as well. He fits really nicely with what they're doing.
Now, one of the things you see in all these clips, Mitz is making incredible throws, right? But the pocket's clean. That's what, let's see what he can do if he's feeling that thing collapse on him. Like, that should be Oklahoma's goal, and that starts with playing the run well. They do a really nice job of changing the launch point in their play action stuff. You're not getting nearly affected by the play action if you're shutting down the run game.
Teddy mentioned Mario Williams. Yes, that Mario Williams, #1 wide receiver in the country, came to Norman, then to USC, now his first season at Tulane. How dangerous and how are they utilizing Mario Williams?
Getting him the ball a bunch of different ways. You saw, just a quick little hot route they threw him, and then those deep crossers. I think that's where they're really dangerous. They got speed that's really crossing in the deep middle of the field, and it puts those safeties in a big-time conflict. They're throwing in bubble screens, tunnel screens, as you saw there. And look at that throw, getting outside the pocket and just threading the needle down the field. We know how fast he is. That's going to be the big danger with this receiver core, especially with Mario Williams, is the speed. Once they start to threaten you with it, you start to give a little bit of cushion, and then they start to hit the underneath shorter stuff.
Defense looks like you can do some things. Kansas State really opened it up in the fourth quarter to come from behind and win. What do you see in this Tulane defense, Ted?
Well, run game. Now, like we said earlier, physical up front. Their defensive line, their backers, they're tough, they're physical. It's hard to move them off the ball. But, you can find some space in that front. You see Kansas State getting up to the next level really well there. And, I tried a lot of quarterback run stuff. Kansas State did. I know that, Avery Johnson for them is a weapon on the ground. I don't know how much of that we're going to see from Jackson Arnold. It could be something that they put in. But as you start to see this game unfold and they got to some of that counter stuff, there were some big gashes there. And then, like I said earlier, I think that's where you can start to build some really nice play action stuff off of it.
Gabe, you're Seth Luttrell, you're Jackson Arnold. What do you see in this Tulane defense that you can maybe try to take advantage of?
First of all, I know that OU's offense has not played the way that they want to play. I think they can score a lot of points against this defense. Kansas State does some things very similar to what Oklahoma does in the run game, and it wasn't always successful, but they did have some big chunk runs in that football game that I think OU can have success with. I think it comes down to Jackson Arnold's ability to push the ball down the field. You look at these first couple games, especially the Houston game. Houston, to me, it did not look like Houston felt threatened by OU's wide receivers with the way that they played coverage. Jackson Arnold has to change that. These wide receivers have to change that. If they're going to be aggressive and crowd the box and play a bunch of man coverage, you got to go win on the outside and you got to connect on big plays. And I think that is something that Kansas State really doesn't have. Avery Johnson is not the passer that Jackson Arnold is. He just does not have that skill set. Now, he can really run, but he's just not as polished in the throw game as Arnold is. And if Tulane wants to be super aggressive in coverage, you got to make them pay.
Yep.
Time for My Pleasure, presented by Chick-fil-A. Download the Chick-fil-A app. Order all of your favorites ahead of time. And we don't have those annoying long lines at the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A. So, Teddy.
The efficiency. Incredible.
What would give you the most pleasure on Saturday afternoon?
Turnovers by our defense. And I think there's going to be opportunity for that. Mensah, we've talked about it, really good player. He can run around. He can throw it downfield. He's got a lot of weapons available to him. But he's a young quarterback. He will make mistakes. And we've been pretty limited in our defensive game plans up to this point. Coach Venables has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. And when you got a young quarterback, changing the picture on him in the secondary, bringing blitzes from some different angles maybe that you haven't shown, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff out there in the field that he just hasn't seen. And that could be a big opportunity for us to force some turnovers.
Gabe, what would give you the most pleasure on Saturday afternoon?
Need to see some deep shots.
Yeah.
I think that if teams are going to continue to play close to the line of scrimmage, Jackson Arnold, he's got to let it rip. Brennan Thompson, Deion Burks, they got to go win, and nothing changes how you have to game plan for an offense if they're able to just throw it over your head and connect on huge plays.
Up next, we will get the national perspective. Tough loss for Notre Dame. We'll recap what happened around college football and our picks in the next segment on Sooner Game Day, presented by Taco Mayo.
Sooner Game Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. OU Health. Proud to be Oklahoma's flagship academic health system. The best place to gear up for game day is shop.soonersports.com. Log on to Soonersports.com/kids for information about joining the Sooner Junior Kids Club, presented by OG&E and brought to you in part by Orthodontics exclusively, Mathis Home, and Devon Energy.
NCAA update presented by Taco Mayo. Big appetite, bigger savings. Download and save today. Notre Dame is a 4-score favorite, losing to NIU. Tennessee toasts NC State. Balls. Josh Heupel, they'll be in Norman next week.
They're good.
No doubt that Texas win. Impressive to go into the big house. Oklahoma State surviving Arkansas. Curious clock management in that game. I'll just say that. What caught your eyes most that you saw last week, Teddy?
Well, I mean, obviously that Notre Dame game was big, but Tennessee and Texas, I mean, Texas going up to Michigan and getting that win, they looked really, really good. I know everyone
looked like a mismatch.
Yeah, a lot of people came away from that saying, oh, Michigan's just terrible. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know how many games Michigan's going to win, but they've got a lot of really good players. They're a really good football team on the line of scrimmage, and Texas dominated.
Gabe?
South Carolina.
Shane Beamer.
Yeah.
Shane Beamer, the Fighting Shane Beamers, they got another big one this weekend. But to go to Lexington and just completely dominate that Kentucky team, we thought South Carolina was going to be one of the less talented teams in the SEC, and who knows? They look
Old Dominion week one. They kind of muddled their way through that.
That defensive line,
They're
that
good.
group's going to give them a chance each and every week.
They're going to get better and better, too.
They got some dudes.
Let's look at our results from Pick'em last week here on Sooner Game Day. Gabe and I went 4 for 5. That's a lot of stuff on there. What do you get? Texas, Tennessee, Oklahoma State. That looks like I got 4 last week. Gabe got 4. Ted got 3.
We all picked Kentucky.
Oops. Yeah, that was bad. I took Michigan. Horrible pick.
Nebraska over Colorado. We all picked that
Beat
one.
down.
So as usual, Ted is kind of lagging behind a little bit. He closes strong, like the former speedster that he was at Fort Gibson High School. It is time for Pick'em, presented by Riverwind. Good times, great rewards. Arizona, Kansas State. This is a Friday night game and a big one early on in Big 12 conference play. Jed Fish leaves Arizona, but the quarterback Noah Fafita is still there. Sooner fans got to see him last year. Who are you taking in this one, Gabe?
I'm going to take Kansas State. And I'm going to steal Teddy's line here. I do not feel good about it.
Gosh, that's the first one of the year, not from Ted.
They're a different team in Manhattan than they are on the road. And Teteroa McMillan for Arizona.
He's good.
He's one of the best wide receivers in college football. He terrifies me, but I think that the Wildcats the K-State Wildcats, grind this one out. Give me Kansas State.
Teddy?
That's probably the right pick, but I'm going with the quarterback and wide receiver combo, Fafita and McMillan. Insane. He's 6'5". They just rip it down the field, and he goes and makes plays. I think they're going to be able to take advantage of that Kansas State secondary.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think Arizona mimics athletically and schematically a little bit what Tulane does, and Kansas State had all sorts of problems with them, but they won, and they're going to be at home. I'm taking Kansas State, too. Texas A&M and Florida. Texas A&M got back on track after their home loss, which now it was to Notre Dame. That doesn't look so good. You got Florida, and Graham Mertz got hurt. We'll see about the quarterback spot. Everybody's all over Billy Napier. Perfect place for Florida to go ahead and win this game. Gabe, what do you think?
No.
Not happening.
Texas A&M. I just think that And some of the things I've seen from Florida's offensive line just does not give me a bunch of faith that they'll be able to block that talented group from A&M.
Yeah, I don't think by far the best unit on the field is going to be Texas A&M's defense.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know who else really stands out. So I'll go with A&M.
I'm with you. It's all three of us picking Texas A&M. LSU, South Carolina. Mentioned Shane Beamer's big win for South Carolina. Throttled Mark Stoops' Kentucky Wildcats. LSU looked okay after they had that opening loss to USC. I don't know which way to go on this one, but I know that LSU's pretty proven commodity over the years. I'm taking LSU. How about you, Gabe?
I'm going to take LSU also, and it's really just I trust Garrett Nussmeier more than I trust Lenore Sellers. LSU's defensive backfield has not been good, but I don't know if South Carolina's offense can really expose that.
It's a tough game to pick, isn't it?
I just hope it's a great game. I think it's going to be. Give me LSU.
I think South Carolina wins, and I think it might be a beatdown.
Okay,
Ooh.
Ted differs. So got to go quickly. Oregon State, no longer
Oregon.
conference rivals, playing anyway. Oregon, Dylan Gabriel. Okay, there you go.
They put it together. Oregon rolls.
It's
I agree.
about time they put it together. I'll go with Oregon as well.
How about Notre Dame and Purdue? Duke transfer Riley Leonard playing quarterback for the Boilermakers with mixed results. Does Notre Dame get back on track, Teddy?
Yeah, I'll take Notre Dame. It's the safe pick here, but after you go out there and show everyone like some of your flaws, people are going to be coming after you. So I bet it's a good game, but I'll take Notre Dame.
Sounds like Riley Leonard dealing with a little shoulder, maybe.
That confirms it.
I'll still take Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'll take Notre Dame as well. Those are our picks. Probably want to maybe take them to the bank. I mean, we hit most of them last week, right? Yeah, good luck on that.
Yeah, between the three of us, we might get some of
What
those
could
right.
go wrong?
Possibly could go wrong. We got hot takes and some Sooners showing out in the NFL on opening weekend when we come back to wrap up Sooner Game Day.
Sooner Game Day is brought to you by Riverwind Casino. Good times, great rewards. Coca-Cola. Is Coke Zero the best Coke ever? Take a test. OG&E. We energize life. The Sooner Sports Podcast is your all-access audio pass to Sooner Sports. Listen as Toby Rowland and Chris Plank talk all things Sooners. New episodes drop every day. Log on to Soonersports.com/podcast or search Sooner Sports Podcast in your favorite podcast provider. Presented by Allstate and Riverwind Casino. Thank you to our cornerstone television partners, OU Health, OG&E, Fowler Auto Group, and Coca-Cola.
Sooners in the NFL opening weekend. Baker and the Bucks balling out. 4 touchdowns. Career high carries there for Joe Mixon. 30 of them, Gabe. Wow. Now
I thought those
Texan.
days were over.
Yeah, I love that. 30 for 159, that's big time.
Andre Stevenson, 25 carries for him. Time for Hot Takes presented by Air Comfort Solutions, your total home solution for plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. Make the winning call today. What's your winning call this weekend, Gabe?
I think they're going to score some points. Give me OU to have over, let's go 35 or more.
Okay. How about you?
Big offensive day.
Yeah, and I kind of in the same vein, I think it's going to be Jackson Arnold's first 300-yard passing game of the season.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hot Takes presented by Air Comfort Solutions. Next week, Josh Heupel brings the Tennessee Volunteers to town. SEC debut for the Sooners. That'll be a 6:30 kickoff. First things first, Oklahoma, Tulane at 2:30 Saturday here at the Palace on the Prairie on ESPN. For Teddy Lehman and Gabe Eichert, I'm Chad McKee. We'll see you next week on Sooner Game Day.